Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وبعد. Today is the 13th of Rabi al-Akhir, 1442, on a Sunday. I wanted to begin this as a series of presentations on the importance of the doctrine of Muslim orthodoxy, or in Arabic, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Now, there are a large body of books on this topic from the first three generations all the way down to our time. But I looked at one in particular today, which includes everything to do with the correct creed, jama building, the discipline of the jama'ah, how to structure the jama'ah, how da'wah is to be done, how one is to examine fiqh, how one deals with reliable versus unreliable people, and many other topics that are particularly pertinent today. This is significant because in the English-speaking world, the situation of the Muslims has become, in some ways, so dire that it's required to have a separate treatment on its own. In terms of the Muslim heartlands, many of the main people of fitan, or tribulation, are the students of knowledge that are actually ignorant in many ways and don't research. And many of these ignorant students of knowledge have come back to the West where Muslims are and are infecting them with their ignorance to such a degree that it's led to the marja, or authoritative people in power in temporal and religious affairs, to have to speak on these matters in detail. The text that I will be using, that I would like us to go through, is إضاءات على منهج الإمام أحمد بن حنبل في العقيدة والدعوة. Clarifications on the methodology of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal regarding the creed and the da'wah. The author is the young Sheikh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan, he studied in Jordan, and he also studied in Syria as well as Egypt from many of the great elders and authorities of today. This text is significant because it's drawing light to Imam Ahmad. Now, someone may ask, why of all things draw light to Imam Ahmad? Well, because Imam Ahmad is in regards to the last of the first three generations. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, خير القرن قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. The best generation is my generation, then those who come next, then those who come next. And this is collected by Imams Muslim and Al-Bukhari, and Ash-Shami has it in Al-Jami' Bain As-Sahihain under the relevant section. The first generation is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second, and his companions. The second generation represents those students of the companions. The third generation represents the students of the students. Some scholars say this extends up to 220 Hijri. Some say it is Imam Shafi'i and those contemporary to him. I will leave a link below in the description that will flesh this out. The important part of all of this is that Imam Ahmad represents the last time the Ummah's affairs were intact in full, and the Jama'ah was intact before the explosion of the cults and sects. In his time, near the end of his time, which represents the tail end of the first three generations, the proliferation of the 72 sects began. And this is why it is important for us to study these matters. And this is why it is significant for us to reflect on all of this. Because the more we gather data, the more we understand, and the more we come to a greater understanding of the first three generations and the practical implementation of the religion, the more we understand our own affairs in being able to carry out our obligations. So this is why I've chosen the book. Now, the book was not just authored by the young Sheikh and Dr. Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan. He also took it to the living authorities of today, not all of them, but some of them. He took them to the living authorities of today, a certain number of them, which include the Sheikh Muhammad Isam ibn Sheikh Hassan Ash-Shatti, who died only a few years ago. He is the grandson of the great Imam Hassan Ash-Shatti, who died 1274 Hijri. He is also coming from the lineage, the Shatti family. They're coming from the lineage of Ma'ruf al-Qarhi, rahimahullah, one of the students of Imam Ahmad. There is also Sheikh Ismail ibn Muhammad ibn Badran ad-Dumi, and he is the big marja of today. I'll include a link to him. We have the Sheikh Abdur-Rahman ibn Sheikh Ahmad Ash-Shami, who is a living marja. I'll include a link to him, as well as the Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Basit ala Sheikh Ar-Ruhaibani, who's a big alim in Sham today. And we will also give some biographical data on him as we go through. Then we have one of the foremost Quran reciters of today, but also a theologian, the Sheikh Muwafiq Mahmoud Uyun. And also another big Sheikh of today, the Shaikh Jamal As-Sairawan. These represent authorities in their time of high rank, which in the case of the first four, these people are all, or the first four are authorities. The second is a big scholar, but not an authority, not a marja. And the final one is an authority in qira'ah as well as theology. So these two have provided something known as taqrir. Taqrir is where you read through a text and you second this text and you vouch for it as being an accurate representation in word and deed of that which is intended by the text of the revealed law as a living representation. That's what a taqrir is. So by these major scholars doing a taqrir on it, it is as if they have written these words, and there are also footnotes from them inside of this book. So this text is very significant, and it was put together and published in the year 1437. So this is some 5 years ago. This text was produced, put into circulation some 5 years ago. And it stands out, it was 1438 it was published. It's published in the year 1438, so this was actually 4 years ago. This text stands out. And what I will be looking to do is to read through it. So inshallah, we can go through this together and benefit. When I received this text in the mail, it took me about a week to read through it. I took my time reading through it, reflecting on the information that I got, because this wasn't an easy, light read. It's not bedtime reading. This is a read that you have to sit and reflect on. And in terms of pagination, it is 137 pages. And I can say for a fact, after reading this, that these scholars did not waste a word. They didn't waste a letter. Everything was in its proper place, and they put everything in its proper perspective. It was a very, very well put together and well organized read. And this is a respect to Sheikh Mustafa, in addition to the Marja people that he sent this to for their approval and examination. So whatever he has written, they have approved and is representative of Muslim orthodoxy's positions in creed as well as dawah, and it includes other affairs as well. So this text will take us from everything from proper beliefs to jama building, as well as affairs that are currently affecting the ignorant among the students of knowledge. And those ignorant students of knowledge have come into what we're calling the Western world, the United States, Canada, and the UK, and infected them. Because much of the battling that we find in the English-speaking world is from these ignorant or jahil students of knowledge that have caused problems to them. One such incident occurred recently when I was sent a series of videos that were deemed to be beneficial by another Muslim brother. And in these particular videos, I listened to the speakers, who I won't bother naming because they're not knowledgeable people, but I listened to the speakers referring to Imam Ahmad, as well as the first theologians of the Ummah, as they reviled them, referred to them as those who liken Allah with their creation, and other despicable and disgusting terms. So I decided that the best disinfectant in this case is sunlight. And so I would treat them by, rather than addressing them, I would take the time of writing things out, and also quoting the authorities to clarify matters. So I took a two-prong approach. One, by publishing articles and other affairs to deal with this disease. And then another one is to deal with the statements of living authorities who will treat this topic, because there's a link between these sick people that are doing what they're doing in the English-speaking language and the sick students of knowledge that have come from the Muslim heartlands that have then come to these lands and infected them. There is a direct link. It's as if they're carrying a virus, and by carrying this virus, they're then doing viral shedding and infecting all the people in the English-speaking world that they come into contact with. And what's resulting from these debates or statements that they're making or little screeds that they're writing is not knowledge. Instead, it is tribulation, it is division, it is problem, it is a hurricane of all types of other issues. Now, these authorities and Mustafa Hamdu Aliyan, the text begins with the title page, and after Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, he includes a quote from Imam Al-Kalwadani, in which he says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, دعا عنك تذكار الخليط المنجد والشوق نحو الإنساب الخرد والنوح في إطلال صعد إنما تذكار صعد شغل من لم يسعد واسمع مقالي إن أردت تخلصا يوم الحساب وخذ بهذا تهتدي واقصد فإني قد قفيت موفقا نهج بن حنبل الإمام الأوحد خير البرية بعد صحب محمد والتابعين إمام كل موحد. And then he says after this, Al-Alamatul Mujtahid Abu Khattab Al-Kalwadani. This is the well-known Imam Abu Khattab Mahfuz ibn Ahmad Al-Kalwadani. He died 513. He is one of the sheikhs of the big sheikh, our grand sheikh, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, rahimahullah, who died 561. Now, the quote that he's giving from Imam al-Kalbadani is, in the name of Allah, the merciful and the compassionate, stay away from anything that makes false mention, that takes you away from the Lord. Show longing to the one who on the day lineages will be cut is the only refuge. When you are brought to that state, there is no hope and no outcome for you except the remembrance of the one who brought you felicity in the first place, and outside of him there is no felicity. Listen to my words if you desire to be purified on the day of reckoning, and take hold of these words of mine so that you might be guided. Make clear intention and firm resolve, for indeed I stand in clear agreement with the methodology of Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the Imam, the unique, the best of all people after the companions of Muhammad and their direct followers. He is the Imam of every one of right creed who believes in Allah's oneness. So this is the opening page where he starts the process of explaining. So it sort of sets the tone for this book, that this is something that's based upon the methodology of the last of the first three generations. And as a side note, he was a voluminous writer. So in terms of hadith and creed, as well as other affairs, he is the most voluminous of all of the people of the first three generations in terms of their written legacy. Now, the first taqrir, or amendation, is by the Shaykh Muhammad Isam ad-Din, the son of Hassan Ash-Shatti, and he is the grandson of the original Imam Hassan Ash-Shatti, who died 1274. This Imam died, Imam Muhammad Isam ad-Din Ash-Shatti, he died only a few years ago, not that long ago at all. He opens up by saying, Alhamdulillah alladhi ba'atha fi kulli asrin man yujaddid لهذه الأمة أمر دينها ويشيد أركانها. Praise be to Allah who sent in every era whoever will revive for this ummah the affair of its religion, strengthens its pillars, وينصر سنته, and helps its sunnah, ويحيي شريعته, and revives its law, ليعود إليها بريقها, and returns to it its original form. ليلها كنهارها, its night is as clear as its day. لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك, no one departs from this path except he is destroyed. فبعث في هذه الأمة نبيا هو أفضل الأنبياء, and he already sent in this ummah a prophet who is the best of the prophets. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. He, Allah, is the one who sent among the illiterate a messenger from among them, reciting to them his signs, purifying them and teaching them the book and the wisdom, while before they had been in clear error. Surah Al-Jumu'ah, the 63rd Surah, Ayah 2. ثم جاء الصحابة رضوان الله عليهم. Then after this came the companions, may Allah be pleased with all of them. ثم الذين يتبعوهم, then those who followed them. وساروا على نهجهم, and they traversed their path. ثم الأئمة المجتهدون الذين رسخوا قواعد هذا الدين. Then after them came the Imams of Ijtihad, who delved deeply into the foundations of this religion. فجمعوا القرآن, they gathered the Quran. ودونوا الحديث, and documented and gathered and organized the hadith. واستنبطوا الأحكام الشرعية, and they delve deeply and derive the rules of the revealed law, وَالْقَوَاعِدُ الْأُصُولِيَّةِ, and the foundations of the principles. لِيَكُونَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ عَلَى بَيِّنَةٍ مِنْ أَمْرِ دِينِهِمْ وَدُنْيَاهُمْ, so that the Muslims might be upon clear guidance regarding the affair of their religion and their daily affairs. وهكذا نشأت المذاهب المتبعة, and so they're spread amongst the people the madhabs that are followed, التي تلقاها المسلمون من أهل السنة, which were met by the Muslims from أهل السنة, من أهل السنة والجماعة بالقبول في سائر أنحاء المعمورة. This was met with acceptance by the Muslims of Muslim orthodoxy in all the remaining places on the horizon. كما نحمده تعالى أن أنهض شبابا مؤمنا مخلصا لبيان هذه المذاهب والكلام إلى الأئمة المجتهدين وما يتميز به كل واحد منهم. Just in the same vein, we praise him, exalted be he, that he's put forward the believing youth pure to explain these madhabs and the speech from the mujtahid imams, and so that each one of them might be distinguished from the other. وقد طلب مني الأخ الفاضل الشيخ الدكتور مصطفى عليان وحسن ظنه به. Now, the favorite brother, the Shaykh, the Dr. Mustafa Alayan, according to his good opinion of me, has sought أن أقدم لكتابه الذي يصدر في الوقت الراهن, that I provide an introductory remark to the book which he's about to bring forward in printing, والذي تناول فيه بالبيان, and that which is about to come and clarify والتوضيح, and give clarification وتوضيح الكثير, and give much clarification مما يهم المسلم معرفته عن الإمام أحمد بن حنبل, regarding what the Muslim is to know about the Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal radiyallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, وعن مذهبه, and about his methodology and his school, وأجاب عما يسأل عنه الناس, and he also answered questions regarding what people ask, الذين يجهلون الكثير, those who are ignorant regarding much, من الحقائق عنه وعن مذهبه, who are ignorant of the realities about him, his methodology. مذهب أهل السنة والجماعة, the way and madhab of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, وجعل عنوان هذا الكتاب, and so he named the address of this book منهاج الإمام أحمد بن حنبل في العقيدة والدعوة, the methodology and clarification of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal in creed and da'wah. فكان موفقا في تصنيفه وتبويبه، فقد جمع بين دفتيه الكثير من المعلومات بشكل مقتضم واضح وسهل التناول. And he, in this authored work that he's done, has put together something that's an agreement in terms of chapter headings, authorship, where he's gathered between its two covers many of the well-known things that deserve reflection, and he clarified affairs and made matters easy to gather and to understand. وَلَعَلَّ مِمَّا يَحْتَاجُ إِلَيْهِ شَبَابُ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ, and it may be that which some of the people who are young in this ummah need. في يومنا هذا أشد احتياج القدوة الصالحة, what people in this ummah need in this day of ours, in desperate need of, which are sound, pious role models, التي تتصف بالوسطية, who can be described by being balanced, التي عبر عنها ربها, who can be described as being balanced in the way that our Lord said that they should be balanced, and how they are supposed to be established on the middle ground, as the Exalted One says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. And likewise we made this a well-balanced nation, so that you might, likewise we made you a well-balanced nation, so that you might be witnesses over humanity, and that the messenger might be a witness over you. Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah, ayah 143. وقد كان الإمام أحمد رضي الله عنه إماما في الحديث والفقه والعقيدة، كما كان إماما في الدعوة والجهاد والصبر والثبات، وإماما في العبادة والتقوى والزهد، فهو يتمتع بكل صفات القدوة التي يحتاج إليها الناس في يومنا هذا. So Imam Ahmad, may Allah be pleased with him, was Imam in Hadith, Fiqh, Creed, just as he was Imam in Dawah and Jihad and patience and being firmly established on the truth, and Imam in worship, Imam in piety and abstention from the world. And all of these attributes that deserve him, that deserve to have one be a role model, he possessed. And they are things that people are in dire need of today in this era of ours. لقد أوضح هذا الكتاب كثيرا من الحقائق عن المذهب الحنبلي. And in addition to this, this book clarifies many of the realities of the Hanbali Madhab وعن Imam Ahmad, as well as Imam Ahmad, الذي أطلق عليه العام والخاص اسم إمام أهل السنة والجماعة. This is the very Imam Ahmad who both the elite and the laity declared him absolutely the Imam of Muslim orthodoxy. وعن مذهبه مذهب أهل السنة والجماعة, and they called his madhab the madhab of Muslim orthodoxy. نسأل الله أن ينتفع المسلمون بهذا الكتاب, and we ask Allah that He might make the Muslims to benefit with this book, وأن يثيب مؤلفه ويوفقه, and that He reward its author and whoever should agree with it. والحمد لله رب العالمين, and praise be to Allah, the Lord of all creation. وفي دمشق لعام 37 و400 وألف. This was completed in Damascus in the year 1437. كتبه, this was written by Muhammad Isam al-Din ibn Shaykh Hassan Ash-Shatti al-Hanbali al-Dimashqi. This was completed by Muhammad Isam al-Din, the son of Shaykh Hassan Ash-Shatti al-Hanbali al-Dimashqi. So this is the first taqreed that was written by the big Imam, the big alim, the grandson, Hassan Ash-Shatti. Now this sheikh, he recited knowledge to many people, such as Imam Ahmad Ash-Shami and many other elders besides, where he mastered fiqh, theology, hadith, recitation, and other matters. So this is the first commendation of this book, the taqreed, high-ranking scholar in this era, high-ranking scholar. I had not previously put on the Midath website his biography, but inshallah I will be looking to do that, and so I will include that in the links. So far we've reached the opening passage of the book and the first recommendation or commendation of the Imam Muhammad Isam al-Din Ash-Shatti. My aim is to keep the opening presentations short, no more than maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And so we're approaching near the end of this. I want to keep them short so people can benefit from them and take away the knowledge from them and reflect on what's inside of them. There is probably no topic no more important than understanding the methodology of Muslim orthodoxy from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the time of Imam Ahmad, which represents the true golden era of the Muslims. Someone, if they activate and follow this in terms of the jama building, how jamas are built, how the religion is understood, there is no better way to understand the religion besides this. There are no better people after the prophets than these people. There is no better era than the era of these people. I often think that one of the issues in the English-speaking world is how sometimes people can be easily led. But it's not just how people can be easily led. It's how they can be so easily misled in terms of the direction that the winds were blowing in. And I will give you an example. In the early 90s of the Kafir era, we were set upon with the wicked, diabolical disease of Salafiyah, and we had to resist it. But people went in the direction that the wind blew. And as Salafiyah began its wane, then people began the debate that you were astray unless you had bay'ah to a particular sheikh or you were following one of the Sufi brotherhoods and going to a Sufi lodge, most of which have been infiltrated by Freemasons, homosexuals, and the like. And I will include the rulings of Abdul ibn Badran on this matter. Most of them have been infiltrated, and most of the so-called Sufi brotherhoods are astray. So most of these people are homosexuals, Freemasons, Gnostics, and really immoral, filthy, wretched, disgusting people. But that became the thing that people were supposed to follow. And then now we are entering into the era where people are told that they should go in the direction of the wind, in which it's a relativistic era. And so one of the things that will assist people from being blown in the wind in the directions of whichever way they are being taken is to return back to the original methodology. And the original methodology, the original principles, have been sat down by the first three generations, begun with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and exemplified and perfected by Imam Ahmad and those under his tutelage. It is my sincere hope that this presentation and those after, if Allah so wills us to complete them, will be a benefit to the believer and will be of usefulness to him. And I extend this further and say not just even the believer, but even those who might not be Muslim that are listening to this, that get a better understanding of the structure of the authority system in Islam, what our methodology for theology is, what our methodology is for fiqh in terms of understanding liturgical day-to-day affairs, what our understanding is of preaching the faith, what our understanding is of establishing trustworthiness in people, how to transact with one another, because all of these things are important, and some of the people have received a jaded understanding of Islam. This does not excuse them on the day of resurrection for committing major shirk and major kufr, as there's never any excuse for that. But rather, it puts them in a situation in which making a clear decision becomes more involved and more strenuous endeavor has to be done. Perhaps the small effort that we're trying to do might be a means in getting people closer to establishing the knowledge and being able to make a more reasoned, clear, thoughtful, and wise decision, whether they decide to be believers or not. As I said, these are not just for believers, but it's also for people who are not Muslims to be able to understand a more systematic approach to the Muslims. And that's why I try to keep these 30 minutes, no more than 45 minutes, inshallah. And so what I will do is I will close here with the opening statements. We are looking next week to finish the rest of the commendations and probably start the opening chapter. So with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's every success, and I hope this has been of some benefit to everyone. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا ورسولنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم أجمعين يا أرحم الراحمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك إنه غفور رحيم يا أرحم الراحمين ولا إله إلا الله.